You're listening to Spreaker Web Radio.
You are listening to Let's Talk About It, sponsored by the #1 broadcasting network on the net. And that's Spreaker, that's Spreaker, that's Spreaker, that's .com.
Separates us is what we've been taught to believe. But don't you be deceived. Oh yeah, we are one. We are one. We are one.
If there is anyone out there who still doubts that America is a place where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, who still question the power of our democracy, tonight is your answer.
You're asking today, how long will it take? Somebody's asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men? I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long, because truth crusher will rise again. How long? Not long. Because no lie can live forever. How long? Not long. Because you shall reap what you sow. How long? Not long. Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne. Yes, that scaffold sways the future. Behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. How long? Not long. Because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. How long? Not long. Because mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He's trampling out the village where the grapes of wrath are stored. He's loosed the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. He has sounded forth the trumpet that shall never call retreat. He is lifting out the hearts of men before his judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer him. Be jubilant, my feet. Our God is marching on. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah. Glory, hallelujah.
Oh, yes, indeed. His truth is marching on. Good evening, everybody. Hello, Facebook. Hello, Google. Hello, Twitter. My friends at Tagged, Linked, YouTube, and my Spreaker.com family, and internet listeners all around the world. Hello and welcome to Let's Talk About It. I am the wild and wonderful Brenda White, coming to you live from the Jewel of the Delta, and that is Forest City, Arkansas, where it is 89 degrees and sunny. And of that we have no fear, because it's about to get 189 up in here, because we got some shit to talk about, do we not? Yes, indeed. Okay, so welcome. Let me introduce to you the first two peoples on my panel. The uppity and well-read Jacqueline Lambert is here, always ready to help keep you informed and to help me talk about it. Jackie, are you there?
I am right here, Brenda. And let me say, I've learned the way to say that. The jewel of the Delta.
The jewel of the Delta. Thank you, Jackie. Also, ready to help Jackie and me talk about it. The professor of the blues himself right here at Spreaker.com. He comes to you every Monday night with Blues in the Night from the Université of Montreal. He is a real professor, and because I don't mess with Rudy Poop people, he knows what he's talking about. My brother, my friend, my Professor Walter Duville. Walt, are you there?
I'm there. What kind of people were those?
Rudy Poop.
I know, right?
That would be.
I gotta get that replay of that.
That would be Rudy Poot, Walt.
Okay. And how do you spell that? Let me write that down. How do you spell that?
I wouldn't go with the name Rudy, R-U-D-Y. I would go with R-O-O-D-Y, Rudy Poot. Rudy Poot, you know. And however you spell poot, well, you put it together, Rudy Poot. Y'all.
So Brenda, how was he doing? Speaking of Rudy,
what Rudy are you talking about? Now I only have one love named Rudy, and that's
talking
Rudy.
about Rudy Giuliani. Giuliani, of course, right?
I knew you were trying to be funny, Walt. See, I knew you already starting shit. Cause I ain't never had but one Rudy in my life that I loved, and that was Rudy Tomjanovich, my really very good friend. I even saved all of my phone calls from Rudy when he would call and I wasn't home, and he'd leave me a message. Rudy was a real person who really cared about folks, and coach of the Lakers and the Rockets and world championships. He's not a Rudy Poot like Rudy Giuliani.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Wow.
Of course you do. Rudy T is what we all called him. That was my very good friend. We hung out together. We got drunk together a couple of times. and we really loved each other. And so Rudy was a very good friend of my husband, George. And that's how I came to be Rudy's friend, marrying George. Rudy played for the Rockets when George was covering the Rockets. And the years passed and Rudy became the coach. And he and George were great friends. And that's how he ended up coming to my house and being my friend too. So very proud of to have had Rudy Tomjanovich as my very good friend. Okay. So David Capers is in the chat room. He said, I'm here today and mad as hell. Welcome to the chat room, Daddy. Hold that right there. Keep that mad right there, because I'm mad as hell too, y'all. All right. So, I got a Trump supporter friend on Facebook. I try to maintain friendships with some people who don't believe as I believe. I try. And I don't think you ought to just throw away your friends. Now, let me say this. If you're with the KKK, I could never support you. You couldn't be my friend, because I couldn't trust you, because they might tell you one night, go out and get us a nigga and bring them back here. It's party time. It's picnic time. We want to have some fun tonight. I could not be a friend with a KKK member, but I can be a friend with a Trump supporter if they're just not starnatal crazy. Okay? So I have a friend in South Carolina, and I won't call his name, and he inboxes me his Trump foolishness, and I try to keep it light and try to laugh with him, and usually I'm letting him know how childish the Trump supporters are.
Mhm.
And I won't say that he thinks, I'm going to say he's a godly man. He just doesn't recognize that Trump is not. But hold on a moment. Y'all give me just a second. Jackie, tell me something fun or that we're going to be talking about. I need to inbox my friend right now. Let him know that I'm about to rant about him. Go ahead, Jackie. Tell us what we're going to talk about today.
Well, what I wanted to talk about today, well, one of the things. We allude to this issue quite a bit, right? But I wanted to talk a little more about the way that the role that race is playing in this election in a way that it hasn't for nearly half a century, right? And I wanted today's show title to be of dog whistles and howling wolves. And the reason is that this morning I was driving in my car and drive. And I heard an interview on NPR with Congressman Jim Clyburn in South Carolina. Now, he was talking about Donald Trump's stunning reversal of position within the space of about 12 hours, mind you, on the police shooting in Tulsa. Congressman Clyburn described Trump's racist rants as not as dog whistles, but as howling wolves. Okay. He was talking about dog whistle politics, right, that you hear all the time. And he said, oh, no, the dogs, they are gone. This isn't a dog whistle. They've let out the howling wolves. Somebody from South Carolina would say some shit like that. And then I went on my, in my email box, and there was an article that Walt had sent me entitled Red State Blues or something like that. And it was really good because, there is now like a cottage industry that has grown up around who the hell would vote for Donald Trump.
Who's afraid of the big bad wolf? I'm sorry.
Am I right?
I'm sorry when you said it.
In fact, to the point where the Guardian has a little thing in their American covers you can click on, and they have portraits of the Trump supporters.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jackie. When you said that,
there is an industry has grown up around this because you were talking about Maureen Dowd. I mean, hasn't she written a book about that basically? Well,
yeah, I'm not sure about that. Yeah.
Well, I'll look it up. But this is what we are all faced with now. Is that everybody is wondering what the hell? I mean, how could Trump even be close in this election? I understand how he could win the Republican nomination. I understand that because the Republican base has gone all the way off the rails, right? But how he could be contending in a national campaign, to my mind, is still amazing. It is just, it is incomprehensible to someone like me, right?
Yeah, Jackie, this is going to be my rant today. Trump supporters. I find these people fascinating. More than fascinating. It's just amazing. The way they think, and they got God always rolling off their tongues, God and country and God and and then they sit around and they call Hillary Clinton bitches. She's a bitch and she's a witch and yeah, look at this. You see that video of Hillary Clinton them cutting off her head? It's amazing to me. And I said to my friend, he sent me this little video, he knows better than to put bullshit like this on my page because he knows I'll go crazy before Facebook, God, and everybody. But he sent me a little video, ha 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 ha, witches for Hillary, ha 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 ha. They said witches instead of bitches. And they come in all colors. And I said, you Trump supporters are so childish.
Yeah.
And that bitch is going to be your president.
Yeah, but I hate to say this, but according to what I looked at today on 538, they're predicting Trump is something like 44 to 45% of the popular vote across the country. That's amazing.
Walt.
Isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
I know that.
Walt, again, they didn't survey 1 million people for
really,
that. They didn't.
I mean, and the thing about it is 44 or 45% might win it.
They
yeah, I mean, the electoral, their latest prediction. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're looking at, Gary Johnson and Jill Stein. Now, Jill Stein is not on the ballot in all 50 states, but Gary Johnson is.
Listen, okay, so to continue with my friend's email to me.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm in my rant. My rant.
I'm sorry. Well, I'll be quiet then.
My rant today is on Trump supporters. Who and as you, I mean, it's funny because we had not talked about the subject of the show, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. Who are these people? Because from what I know of my Facebook friend, he's a nice guy, He sends me birthday cards, he sends me little gifts. He's a nice guy. And, when I talk to him, he's a nice guy. But you're wondering what's going on in the mind where they can't see who this phony Donald Trump is, his body language, his facial movements, his tone, his everything says to me, phony. All the lawsuits. Have you looked at any of the videos of the real people that he scammed in around the Taj Mahal that are telling their stories? He told them to sue him. Never said that they didn't do their work. Never said they didn't do a good job. Just decided I'll pay them a little bit every month until I get the work finished, or I get the pianos in, or I get the windows in, and then we won't give them the last check. And each one of these people have testified, and they've all been white men. They've each testified that when they didn't get the last check, they waited 30 days and then they started to call. They got the runaround. Oh, it must have been some mistake. I'm sure we wrote that last check. And that was the first bullshit calls that they were receiving. And then they finally got a letter. Mr. Trump says he'll give you 70 cents on the dollar and you will take that or you'll get nothing. Sue him. He'll file bankruptcy. This is who this man is. These are not actors or stars. These are real people with their names attached to these videos, telling their stories. And I've seen them over and over. But I got a bullshit radar, Jackie, in my head. And your grandmother was my mother. You got that same bullshit radar it comes in our DNA. And I don't understand what I've always said. If I was a hoe, I always got to go to my hoe analogies. If I was a hoe and I played men for money, I'd have the Trump men. I'd be rich. Because these are some... What? Go ahead.
Brenda, I just need to interrupt you for a second. I need to interrupt your rant. And I need to tell you and Walt and the audience that I sent an email to them before the show about what I wanted to talk about today. My last sentence was, and Brenda, this has nothing to do with sex.
Now, Jackie.
And lo and behold, there you are.
I haven't opened my... I didn't open my email, but that wasn't going...
She didn't look. I know, all right? So anyway, please go ahead, but I just had to share that.
Jackie,
That it had nothing to do with sex, but I'm sure she would connect it up.
you know that wasn't going to stop me from bringing in my sexual analogies to this bullshit.
I know.
You know I have to break it down so that people understand. Okay, so continue with my email. My friend writes, ha, 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 after I said,
Yeah.
and that bitch
If
is...
I was a hoe. No, go back to if I was a hoe.
If I was a hoe, and if I could stand to have conversations with the Trump men, oh, I'd be rich. They are such suckers. But see, Jackie, I believe that some of them know the truth. I believe that some of them know the truth, but they're so in need of a white man being in charge again. It doesn't matter how you do me. It doesn't matter how you fuck me. It doesn't matter how you screw me. Up and down, side, in the ear, in the head, in the mouth. It don't matter. Just long as you're white. Because surely they must understand. Now, again, Jackie, it was like W. Bush was never our president among these folks who wanted him so bad and voted him in for a second term. And as the country went to hell in a handbasket, that's always where they swear we going, you know. As the country went to hell in a handbasket, they stood by and watched, and he's killing us, but he's white, and rather die by the hands of a white man. Then Barack Obama comes in, and he really does bring change. He really does bring change. And Jackie, about this time last week, we had just found out that Barack Obama said the day before he had just found out Spreaker just had a hiccup. Okay, I'm back, y'all. I saw that little hiccup go off with Spreaker when the on air light went off. So I knew y'all missed me for a second, so I stopped talking. So there has been change. I am the beneficiary hip replacement, and that would have broken me for the rest of my days. There's no way I could pay that. But I had Obamacare, and I didn't even have a copay. And yesterday, I was on the track running 3 miles. Just had hip replacement surgery less than a year ago. And yesterday, I was out on the track running 3 miles, and the day before that, and the day before that. And you're telling me there's no change? There were 18 to 20 million people that got Obamacare. Ask me. I'm one of the recipients. There's been some change.
Yeah, well, Brenda, may I just pop in here and talk about, you were talking about the economic numbers.
Yes.
About the something.
Yes, and I will finish my little rant with my boyfriend online. Go ahead.
Okay. The other thing about that report was that median incomes had gone up, and the uninsured rate is the lowest now than it has been since they started taking that statistic.
Mm-hmm.
So now the uninsured rate in health insurance is like 9.2%, which is amazing.
And Donald Trump says Obamacare, all of our generals are stupid. Our army is, and our military ain't shit, and we ain't shit. The country's gone to shit, and they cheer. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's not true, people. It's not true. And they love the Lord. But white men always did love the Lord while they were opening up the backs of black men and women as slaves. They always preached the Bible. So this is no shock. But black folks, we truly are the beneficiaries of God's grace. We really do know him. Because see, back when y'all was whooping our asses like that, all we had was God. So we really do know him. We really know how to call on him, and we really do count on him. And here you are again. You make the rights to carry guns legal in the States, and I tell black folks all the time, this is not going to make you safer. And here we are. But before we get into the gun thing, let me read this last few little things from me and my online Trump boyfriend. As I said to him, and that bitch is going to be your president. He said, ha, 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 really? Then America will be no more. You Hillary supporters have turned into giving me free stuff, or I will become a thug. I have no idea what that meant, because this man's a college graduate, but this is where they're racist and they don't know they're racist. I'm calling you a lovable racist, boo, but you don't even know it. I said, I don't know any thugs, but I'm sure white folks got as many thugs as we do. And they and Mr. Trump get more free stuff than any black folks I know. I went on to say, and we lived through Bush, we'll make it through Hillary. The world's not coming to an end, white people. And if y'all know the Bible at all, and I know that my friend goes to Bible study, he's big on this. Them learning how to kill gays and all that shit, you know. They ain't talking a whole lot of love to me, but he telling me what the Bible said to do to the gay folks. The Bible study. No, I don't think I'll go to your Bible study, boo. You can go online. I know that I've got a lot of love inside of me, and I ain't trying to feel that kind of Bible study. I say, y'all are such drama queens. This world will end when Jesus says so, and no man knows the hour or the day, not even Mr. Trump. And he said, no, you avoid the truth. So I open up my email. I'm getting to the end now. And I said, good morning. And I never avoid the truth, not even about myself. And truth, and what truth am I avoiding? The childish rhetoric that Hillary Clinton is a witch, or that there are more white people receiving, there are more black people receiving white welfare than blacks, and Donald Trump receives his share of government benefits whenever he can, or that he'll never be president, or that he has never paid taxes like you and I. I fully accept all those truths. Now, where's my engagement ring? I always try to end it on a friendly note. And here was the last note from him before I had to go on air. And do y'all hear any sense in this, Jackie? His responses to me. As I read, do you hear any sense?
No.
I don't even know where you avoid the truth came in. As I said, Hillary Clinton will be your president. This world is going to hell is over. It's not going to be over. We lived, Jackie, through losing 800,000 jobs a month. We lived through gas prices of what y'all see, $6 a gallon out there in California.
Well, in the Southland, it was, I think, pretty close to that. But I mean, in some places, it was just like, ridiculous.
Yeah, so yeah. We lived through all of that. We lived through the crash, of the worst crash of the stock market since the 20s or 30s. And what have we seen since Barack Obama has been president? We've seen stock market history breaking records. Have we not, Jackie?
Well, yeah, today the NASDAQ set a new record.
It's all we're seeing. We've got health care. We've gotten that. He promised us that. We've gotten it. And now we're just trying to expand it to all mankind. These Christians, I don't understand. They want to talk God and love to us, and then they want to see people starve. So he wrote on, why does everything with you come back to race? Because everything in this country comes back to race, my darling. That's why it comes back to race to me. If the Trump people could read, and I know my friend can, but he avoids reading the facts. Jackie, they just don't want the facts. Trump doesn't give them any facts. He just throws out some, what do they call it, red meat?
Yeah.
And they all dig into it like dogs. Yeah. It's been a disaster. Obama's been a disaster. Tell us what's been a disaster. Did the death panels ever come to our door, Jackie?
I haven't seen one.
Have you ever met a death panelist?
No, but just like with Sarah Palin, and those guys, Hope Springs Eternal.
Yeah, I've never met a death panelist. Nobody's ever talked about a death panelist. None of my older sick relatives or anything ever said, "Oh Lord, cousin Brenda, a niece Brenda, the death panel showed up at my door." I've never met any of that. When he says a disaster, tell us what's a disaster. Mitt Romney and John McCain both promised when they were running, we'll have gas at $2 a gallon. Our gas is less than that. I get gas here for $1.79 a gallon. Again, Obamacare, the stock market's breaking. Also, what was he did with the federal prison system, Jackie? That was here this year.
He was the first sitting president to visit a federal prison.
He visited federal prison, and also they made some law that will stop these harsh punishments. I mean, they'll give a molester and a child rapist less time than they will a drug dealer. He can kill a child. A police officer that killed a citizen and went to trial, and then he settled for manslaughter and got 4 years. But you find a black man with some drugs in his pocket. These are facts, David. Oh, Lord. These are facts.
Yeah, you did.
These are facts. This is nothing. Donald Trump walks to those rallies and he gives y'all not one fact. He just says everything. He uses the same.
Brenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we just slow down for a minute?
Sure.
The thing that we know for sure about the vast majority of Trump voters is they make their own facts.
That's true.
If you're getting your information from the Drudge Report and from,
the Breitbart,
that I'm thinking about, Walt.
the Breitbart network.
Yeah, Breitbart. And from Fox News, you will not be conversant with any facts because they make up their own facts. They make up their own history. All right. And I wanted to talk about, since we're on this subject, which I think is great because this is the subject I want to talk about today.
Yeah, but let me finish my last read.
You're not done yet?
No, this is my last read, and then we're going to get into more of this. But there really are facts out there, but they take these Breitbart, Alex Jones things, and every now and then he'll try to share one with me, and I appreciate him sharing what he tries to share with me in my private box, because like I said, I know that there are people that think differently than you. I think he's a pretty good guy, but I'm surprised at a military man whom, he was telling me, I know there was what was it? I started to say WD-40 in Iraq. Well, what was the agent that could make nuclear bombs, y'all? Anybody remember? David, you're in the chat room. If you remember, right, weapons of mass destruction, whatever that chemical was that they could make bombs with. You know, he told me. I was in Iraq. I saw it. It's there. Well, what do you think about Trump, who says they never had it? Bush lied. It wasn't there. What do you think about your leader? I mean, you argue with me that you saw it. Here's the thing with that. As I heard one of the generals speak on this subject, they did have this agent to make the bombs, but they didn't have what they needed to put the agent into and shoot it through the sky. They didn't have those parts. They were trying to put the parts together and they didn't have them. So maybe you were right that they had the chemical or whatever it was to make the nuclear bomb, but they were trying to stockpile for that, but they didn't have what they needed to get it off the ground and get it over to America or wherever, or Europe or wherever they wanted to drop the nuclear bomb. So but your boy Trump stood up the other day and they never had George Bush is a liar. And it doesn't matter. He stands up and he says that minimum wage is too high. You really gonna support this? Yeah. They got white folks just like we got black folks without no teeth. And they're standing out there saying, yeah, we're going to support it. Well, even the black folks with no teeth stood up for Obama.
Jackie, we're back to the no teeth business again.
they're not going to vote against their own best interest. Okay, but here's the last paragraph. So why does everything...
You keep saying here's the last paragraph, but it never ends. Okay?
Are you being insubordinate on my show? Okay, so why does everything with you come back to race? Safety nets are needed for those that need it. I'm sorry. America can't afford to continue to let illegals enter the country. You said you hired 12 of them. And again, I say, it's white folks that's hiring illegals, not black folks. We need to care for our own. Trump will create jobs for all. And then make sure you don't get your paycheck after you do the job, which establishes self-esteem. They got this in their mind, Jackie. And allows equal opportunity for all, which is all America has ever promised. And wait for it. and this is all America has ever promised. And the great white hope, Donald Trump himself, is going to give it to us. Now, Jackie, don't you trust that? Jackie?
Trust what?
What my friend says. Donald Trump is going to give us equal opportunity for all, which is what America has always promised us.
I'm
Jackie?
sorry. Go ahead, Walt.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I mean,
I asked Jackie because she's black. Don't you trust the great white hope to give us all equal opportunity, which is what America has always, this is what they've always promised. David, don't you trust it? You in the chat room. Speak to us. Jackie is silent. Okay, let me finish. All America has ever promised.
I keep saying that. I'm going to stop saying that, please. And just say when you're done.
Okay. Socialism can't support all. It has failed around the world and makes people depend on government instead of God. And there is only one true God.
Well, I only have one thing to say about this, which is that,
I'm gonna let my white man speak.
If somebody tells me too much garbage, no matter how well filled they are, I just kind of pat them on the back and send them on their way.
That means you block them, Walt.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm gonna look, I mean, when I was in Massachusetts in the summer, I met a guy who was a Republican. He was not particularly poor either, right? Right. And we talked about the election. He was the guy who was going to vote for Trump, but he voted for Trump because he's a Republican. He didn't say he loved all these ideas, right? Yeah. And he probably had a few of the same ideas that you're talking about. But he was civilized, and you can deal with it. When people come on to you and they give you this kind of stuff, it's like, my life is too short. Thank you.
Well, Walt, I hear you. But you know what?
How good people are. I mean, the people who send people to the camps and the people who executed people in war and stuff, they're probably all pretty nice people. I mean, I knew a guy who worked with the SS. He was perfectly nice. But that didn't mean he didn't work with the SS during the Second World War. No one knew that from another neighbor, right?
And Walt, when you think about it, you ask yourself, somewhere deep down inside of this person, there is some shit here. If he worked for the SS, there's some deep. See, who the hell did you have to be inside, Walt, to work for the SS?
But if you would have met this person, you would never have said that. He would be very polite to you and
right. Hey, David,
carried your groceries, and all the other stuff, right?
David,
so you cannot tell. I mean,
David Capers,
there are generally evil people out there and so on, but there are a lot of people who do evil even though they have that other part going for them. Right?
That niceness.
Isn't it? I mean, that's when you deal with people. That's the problem. You cannot be sure.
David Capers just wrote.
People are biblical. It's by your works that you know them, right?
That's right. David Capers just promised us 30 acres. That was 40 acres, David, and a mule too. Where's mine? Look, so I listened to him talk to me. Walt, a part of me just wanted to understand how an educated man like himself, now I believe he's educated, he said he is, he speaks English properly and correctly. How do you get sucked into this way of thinking? And how is it that you would even talk to a black woman such as myself and think that you can tell me this shit and I will believe it? You will never convert me to thinking the way that Trump thinks. I don't want the support of the KKK.
I understand what you're saying. I mean, but the thing is, there are people like that. That was that article that we were talking about before the show with that lady who apparently had the latest news just resigned her post, but the lady who was running the Trump campaign in the county in eastern Ohio and who said things, that we were talking about previously, like that there was no racism before Obama and that essentially black people don't really like to vote, and so it doesn't.
Giuliani.
But I mean, this is a lady who, if you look at her, I'm sure she's very nice.
Giuliani is insane. Giuliani said there was no terrorism. We didn't have any of this until Obama and Clinton got in office, where you skipped George Bush when 9/11 happened and you were the mayor. And
well, you would like some of the stuff this lady said. For example, she's saying that for example, there's lower voter turnout among African Americans because of the way they're raised.
Yeah.
Wait. I'm sorry. Say that again, please, Walt.
Yeah, there's lower voter turnout among African Americans because of the way they are raised.
Okay.
So she does not know that the demographic group in the United States that votes in the highest numbers, more highly than anyone, is black women. She doesn't know that.
No, but she's also was Trump campaign chairman in Mahoning County. Right?
Okay.
Where apparently, according to this, 6,000 people changed their registration from Democrat to Republican to vote for Trump in the primaries.
Well, I'm gonna send out a shout to the Trump men, who are just so dumb. That come on over here, baby. I want to talk to you. I need my rent paid, and and I need my hair did and my nails did and some new shoes, and I'll walk around in front of you if you give me your money. I don't understand. They are not looking at this man's history. They don't care what he shows them his taxes.
But I just want to say, like, I because I have this article in front of me, like what you and Brenda have been talking about, Jackie. I mean, here's a direct quote from this lady. Said, "I don't think there was any racism until Obama got elected. We never had problems like this. Now with people, with the people with their guns and shooting up neighborhoods and not being responsible citizens, that's a big change. And I think that's the philosophy that Obama has perpetuated on America."
Heavenly Father.
Okay, so
Jesus.
Walt and Brenda, I think that my head may explode before we finish this show. It may explode before we finish this segment, actually.
Yeah, Jackie.
None of this.
I took my medication before I came on the show, and I brought my liquor bottle in here in the room. I might have to put some in my coffee.
Yeah.
Because well, you know what, y'all? We know the facts, and when we know the facts and we hear shit like this being read, I mean, they're really trying to tell us, black folks, that Barack Obama is the cause of racism. Well, first of all, you all have spent the last 8 years claiming that this Negro wasn't born here. I mean, and my friend here in the chat, you know, he tries to send me shit about, did you know
you know what I always wonder
that ring on his finger? What about the ring on his finger?
No matter how you put it, it's stupid because no one denies that his mother was from Kansas, right?
Nobody.
So that thing about citizenship is, you know, a natural born citizen means that you were born in the United States or one of its territories, or that one of your parents, it doesn't have to be both of them, one is an American citizen. Now, no one denies that his mother was an American citizen, so how can it matter? Even if he had been born in Pakistan or Kenya or Outer Mongolia or the moon, okay, for that matter, his mother was an American citizen. He's an American citizen. That is the way that has been interpreted and applied in American law.
But Jackie, that didn't mean for them
like
that
the 1860s, right?
Listen, the Constitution only works when white folks get what they want out of the Constitution.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, Brenda. Okay.
Well, I mean, that's what the Constitution says, right? What you're saying is what the Constitution says about how you become a citizen.
Yeah, you know, like in the 14th Amendment is what gave us birthright citizenship.
Yeah.
And what that was pointed towards was all of the African slaves who had been freed after the Civil War. And there was this huge concern about that, about you know, what status would these people have if they were not citizens, and blah, blah, blah. And one of the things that after the Civil War that a lot of the white people did not realize is that for the African slaves, even though they had been enslaved in this country, this was their home. They knew no other place. When they were talking about sending black people back to Africa, those black people were not from Africa.
And knew nothing about, thank you.
Exactly. So this was home to them. They just wanted equal treatment and equal protection under
the law.
That was all. That's what they wanted. They didn't want to go back and have vengeance on white people and none of that shit. They just wanted to be left alone to live their lives and make their own decisions. To enjoy the blessings of liberty that black people had fought along white people for since the founding of this great nation.
Amen.
Okay? That's all they wanted. But somehow that didn't work out that way. Okay? So anyway, this whole citizenship issue, and like for me, the birther issue pointed out to me, I did not realize that there was a whole crowd of white people who did not believe that black people were citizens. That somehow we were unworthy of citizenship. I just didn't get that until the birther thing.
Well, Jackie.
And so when you hear the talking heads talking about how offensive that whole thing was to the black community, I mean, if someone came out and said, well, you know, the Irish are not worthy of citizenship because the way they came here escaped in the Great Potato Famine, you know, or the Polish people aren't deserving of citizenship because they're from Poland, you know, I mean, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean, the people that don't get it, that's what amazes me, too.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you be so, I mean, people, in my opinion, and this is Jackie's opinion, right?
Uh-huh.
The folks who are so rabid for Trump are people who lack empathy.
Yes, Jackie.
I always felt that one of my great strengths as a human being is being able to put myself in someone else's shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
That's, you know, whenever you stop to think what it's like for some other person. For instance, recently, there's been a lot of grumbling among the employees where I work about, you know, some things that management has done recently.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I was asking them to think about the life and the demands put on the managers in our store.
Mm-hmm.
These are people who have to do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand me?
Yes.
And when I say that they do everything, they do everything.
Mm-hmm.
They check groceries, they man the bakery, they work the Starbucks counter when it's called upon, they get baskets, they sweep the floors, they stock the shelves. Do you understand me?
Yes.
And they have their administrative duties to perform too.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet you that most of those people still make under $50,000 a year.
I bet you they do too, Jackie.
Okay.
You know, I read about a McDonald's manager working 120 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. You know, that's amazing.
And, you know, the thing about that, though, is that it was President Obama and the National Labor Board that changed the rules just last year so that employees who make less than $50,000 a year must be paid overtime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
To stop that kind of abuse. Because they give you, it's like, oh, well, we're going to pay you $35,000 a year, and we expect you to work 128 hours a week.
Mm-hmm.
No.
You have no life. Your life
That's
belongs to us.
Wage. Okay? So anyhow, you know, I hear them. I do. I hear them. I hear the ridiculous things that they say. And I know that on the news media, they're going to get the most ridiculous, ignorant person to put in front of a camera.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because the more outrageous the thing is that someone says, you know, that brings eyeballs to their news coverage and stuff. So I do know that they bring, you know, the most ridiculous people out for us to look at and ogle or whatever. But a person like your friend, I mean, one of the things that Hillary Clinton talked about during Bill Clinton's presidency is when they were having all of the upheavals in Kosovo and Serbia. And what Hillary was talking about is that she was amazed at how people who were well educated could hold the views that they did.
Yes.
And see, the thing about getting a good education is that you got whatever education you got from school, right? Mm-hmm. But whatever your belief system is, that's probably, for some people, it's still going to be your belief system. I mean, I can remember being in Western civilization class where the professor started talking about the historical Jesus, right? Mm-hmm. And there were kids in that lecture that walked out because they could not make a delineation between their faith and what secular history tells us, right? They, you know, I mean, the professor was not telling them to not believe in Jesus' divinity or anything like that. He was talking about the world during the time of Jesus. Okay. But they can, it was just blasphemy.
Yeah, and I can't hear it.
But, that's also a part of education, because back in the day, I mean, I went to a liberal arts college, a lot of other courses, but you were obligated to take courses in philosophy and things like that. Nowadays, education often is too specialized, and people don't get that, so they don't even get to the point where they pose those type of questions. So it's hard to get to them, right?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The thing is, yeah, I know what you mean, but the thing about it is higher education used to be, I remember one of my professors telling me that education was supposed to be a liberalizing experience. And what he meant by that was it was supposed to give you a broader perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. That's all, and I know the way that in politics now you say liberal, and that's the same thing as pawn, scum-sucking douchebag.
Yes.
Yes, that's because you're on that side of the border.
Yeah, or like your friend was talking about socialism. And of course, socialism is not one thing.
Uh-huh.
All right? Building a public road is a socialist act. I almost said a bad word, but all right. So, living in a society, where do you think the word socialism comes from? Because we do live in a society, and if you live in a society, you do owe something to the other members of your community.
Yes,
Because
Jackie.
we're all going to live together. We have to do it by certain rules, and there has to be a certain amount of shared prosperity. Because believe it or not, we all contribute to the prosperity.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you. This is what's so amazing, that they set their hair on fire up about giving to and welfare and da 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 da.
Well, and the question is, how do you feel about corporate welfare? It's like I don't know if
That's perfectly fine, Jackie. They don't hate that. I mean, Trump has bragged to them how he has used the government and all of this. I was a businessman, right? So
but how is that fair?
It's not fair. And this is what we're talking about. And this also, as they try to bring us to the Lord and tell us about God.
Well, I really
they've got some Jim Jones preacher. They've got some Jim Jones preacher preaching.
Yeah, I understand this, but the Lord has nothing to do with this shit.
I know, Jackie. I'm talking about these people and the way that they think. We know the Lord has nothing to do with it. Okay,
well, no, the thing about
that's a matter of opinion. But what I'm saying is, if you had any shadow of the Lord in you, instead of learning about killing gays, why don't you spend that time and learn about how to contribute to your society as you should? Donald Trump doesn't pay taxes. This is okay with you, followers, minions? This is okay with you, that you got to work every day. I got to work every day. Jackie has to work every day. And she's got to pay taxes. But
well, Jackie was saying too, I mean, because I'm big on this Elizabeth Warren business, and I put a couple articles about this Wells Fargo situation.
Oh my God, that was fantastic, right? Walt. That was fantastic.
And I mean, this cross-selling, and the CEO of Wells Fargo, who was interrogated by Elizabeth Warren in front of the Senate committee.
Excuse me, Walt. Excuse me, Walt. He was not interrogated. He was raked over the hot fire.
Well, I mean, but the point is, none of these people had any criminal charges ever laid against them, and
none.
The amount of money this particular guy came out of this because he pumped up the stock price without explaining the way that this was
and
done,
made
by creating fake bank accounts, essentially.
$200 million.
And he came out with $200 million.
$200 million he walked away
That's
with.
One person.
And they fired the fired the low level people like the cashiers and shit. And
that's right. Yeah.
And the supervisor of people like cashiers and stuff, she walked away with a $90 million bonus.
That's right, and no criminal prosecution.
No criminal prosecution.
Right. And the thing about this is that they fired the cashiers who they trained to do this.
Yeah,
yes, exactly.
Made them do it. Made them do it, Jackie. They didn't just train them. They forced them to do it. You're going to lose your job if you don't do what we tell you. And when the heat come down, now you're going to lose your job because you created these accounts. How did those cashiers make any money off of that? They had to be told to do that. What cashier would say, I'm going to create several accounts in Sister So-and-so's name. And I'm
But I mean, it's the disproportionality that's really the thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole thing about
people.
This whole inequality business, and that people have been talking about. And the people have, when you're talking about going to the Lord and all this business. I mean, Jackie talked about this before. This is like a social Darwinism that these people have, right?
Yeah.
And they attach it to this religious belief, as the old Calvinists did.
Yeah.
I mean. You're predestined to do this, and so if you're predestined to do this, right, and that's the way it got popularized, then it doesn't matter who's in your way.
Walt, I am a believer in God and all His goodness and mercy, and whenever He has to drop the hammer or whatever else. But I don't put that on nobody else. I don't go around trying to preach to you to come on this way. Come this way. He's the one. You got to trust Him. Even if they beating you and burning you, I don't do that. I live and let live. I was brought up with God in my home. My mama never taught us to go knocking on the door. Let's go convince Sister Jones to follow us and the Lord. It has to be a personal choice. But these evangelicals, as they're called, they want everybody to think their way or else. And I really don't like your way. That Jim Jones way. Beat your ass. He had nothing but a modern day slavery camp going over there. And then if you didn't kill yourself when I told you to kill yourself, then I'm going to kill you. And I worry about these people trying to influence our lives. Donald Trump has not been to church. And he was so uncomfortable in that black church as Omarosa tried to just shout herself out of her pants. He was standing there rocking back and forth like a silly doll. I don't understand. Jackie.
Oh, Brenda, it's not only that. In one of his books, Donald Trump wrote that, Christians were suckers.
Kitty Jackie.
Yeah.
What book was that? The Art of the Deal?
I don't think it was in The Art of the Deal, but it was in one of his many books that he never wrote. That's one of the things too that always slays me about, the whole Republican and Democrat thing. Mm-hmm. Barack Obama writes his own book.
Okay.
I mean, he can actually write them himself. He can research it and write it himself, right? But these guys, Donald Trump, Sarah Palin, Bill O'Reilly, they have somebody else write their book, and then they put their names on it.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the things that for me is very instructive about these folks as well.
And all the people... I
was going to say, like, when you were talking about this, to go back to where we started before we got ranting, or before Brenda got ranting.
Yes.
But there is this cultural divide that you can't get over, right? I mean, there's the race business. I had this conversation with the guy I know here that used to work with me, and who's from New York, and we were talking about this, and I asked him, what do you think about the election? He taught political science on top of that. And he said, I don't watch any of that because I can't take it anymore. I just can't take it. I'm not going to watch the debate because I know what's going on. You don't have to ask me. I know what's going on. And so I said to him, well, some of the stuff like this gun business and stuff, I said to him, like, you grew up in New York City. I grew up in upstate New York. Did you ever see anybody with a gun? He said, no. I never saw anybody ever carrying a gun, right? Mm-hmm. And the same thing was true for me, right? Except for people who went hunting. Right? You see people with hunting rifles or whatever out in the thing. And we're just saying, like, the culture here is so much different, right? That, growing up in the Northeast, and I'm sure that's true in Northern California as well, right? And you have a different point of view on the world. I mean, this looks absolutely crazy. You got this guy carrying a rifle into Walmart.
Yeah.
If I saw a guy with a rifle at Walmart, man, I'd be running the other way. I'd move.
Yeah, I mean, while, what they've unleashed are these nuts. like I'm you know what that says, you're bunking, you punking for a fight. I'm fighting you. I'm gonna blow any sucker away that say the wrong thing to me. And as soon as they fire that gun, they'll be sitting somewhere crying, just like the asshole that killed young not Trayvon Martin, but I can't think of his name right now. The kid from Jacksonville who was sitting in the SUV. He and his friends were going out on the town, and they had their music.
Oh yeah,
Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
He killed him, and now when they sentenced him a month or so ago, there he sat crying, won't apologize to the family. No, you were a badass that night. You carried your guns because this is what their attitude. Yeah, and one of them black ones say something to me. My friend asked me, why does everything come back to race to you? Well, everything doesn't come back to race to me, but a lot of shit does when it's racially motivated. Donald Trump is not preaching love. And Jackie, I'm certain that some of the educated white people, they know when he's lying. That you might not want to hear the truth about him, but they know when he's lying. But
what you're saying though is exactly what Jackie was saying earlier. I guess it was off air, but talking about the way that the general climate has gone here, right? I mean, it's really, and Donald Trump, it's an absolute mistake to think about anything he says in terms of issues. It's the image that he's trying to portray, because it doesn't matter what he says. I mean, that's one thing that's clear. And in fact, we talked about this way early in the campaign after the primaries and stuff, saying, well, what's Hillary Clinton going to do here, right? And the fact is, well, he figured, and I figured incorrectly, if you let down Trump talk, everybody's going to see he's an idiot. But he's been talking, he's doing better in the polls than he was before.
Yeah,
which is a weird thing, right?
Yeah, because and Trump, I mean, and while there's no other way for you to think of it other than as long as he's a white man, we gonna be okay. As long as it ain't Hillary Clinton and a woman running the country, we gonna be okay. We'll just go ahead and vote for him. We know he's a liar and a cheat, and this is what Donald Trump is: a liar, a cheat, a scam artist, a fraud. Can't you see it?
Yeah, but I mean, you're at the point where, like, I happened to catch an interview with Lindsey Graham on one of the right wing radio things, and if anything, after the primaries, I kind of got to like Lindsey Graham. And he was there. They were asking him, they're trying to get him to say, well, who are you going to vote for? Okay, who are you going to vote for in the election? Right? And Lindsey Graham says, I'm not going to vote for Hillary, but he says Donald Trump does not have the temperament, nor does he have the character or whatever to become president. So
right.
Yeah. And he says, so what I'm doing is I'm campaigning for Republican candidates in South Carolina. For the Senate and House of Representatives or whatever. But don't ask me about, essentially what he said was, don't ask me about the election.
And another thing, you can't ask a Trump supporter, his surrogates, so to speak, that are on TV every day. You can't ask him, what did he mean by let's take all of her guns from her security guards on the trail and let's see what happens to her? Well, what am I to think that means? You're talking to these minions of yours who believe that Barack Obama wasn't born here. He's a Muslim. So what if he's a Muslim? What did he do for Muslims while he was in the White House that gave them the upper hand over us? He's a Muslim. And then, I saw this video yesterday that believed that he had something to do, and he's not the only one. He was at a Trump rally. He had something to do with blowing up them buildings in New York on 911. Well, what do you think he had to do with it? I know, because he's a Muslim. And, well, why do you think he had something to do with it? Because he was nowhere around the White House. He wasn't in the Oval Office working like he should have been. And where do you think he was? I don't know. I'm still trying to figure that out. I put this thing up with and it's called Trump supporters are as dumb as you think they are. And a Trump supporter just couldn't stand it. Anytime you ask them anything about Trump, or you show them a fact about Trump, or as this reporter had gone around and they filmed asking these people about Barack Obama. Now, Barack Obama is about to be gone out of the White House in a few. So why is their hatred so focused on him? He's a Muslim. He's a Muslim. He's a Muslim. And wait, Jackie.
Wait, Brenda, I've got something. Please go ahead. And because I wanted to, when you said this, this article that Walt and I were talking about earlier.
Okay, hold it. And I'm gonna let you have it right after this. I put that up for me and my Facebook friends to have a little laugh about. And I mean, it was nothing made up. There were no actors in it. This is just what they believe. And, if you don't watch some of this stuff and see how far out these people are, you will be sitting here, I'm not involved. I don't want, you need to watch some of this shit and see what these people really think. But as I put this video up, one of these Trump supporters whom I knew from Orlando, I found out later that he was a Trump supporter by him putting shit up on my page on Facebook. I'm going to block him after the day because I don't care for that kind of bullshit. But he put up a video shortly after I put this up. Hillary Clinton is bringing Sharia law to America. It made me so mad, Jackie. I called him by name. Michael Decker, what the fuck do you know and or care about Sharia law? And what the hell does that have to do with the racist fools that thought Barack Obama was president during 9/11? Trump supporters are stupid. That's what I wrote to him. And of course, he can't respond to me. What, Jackie? They were just, whatever Donald Trump spews out to them, that's what they will come back and repeat to you. I guarantee you, Jackie, he's never read a damn thing about Sharia law. Doesn't know what it means.
Well, most of these folks don't know, Brenda. I mean, what have I said a million times before? The Know Nothing Party. No, they don't know. They don't care to know. They just make shit up that makes them feel better.
Yep.
Or to scare the crap out of one another. Okay?
Yeah.
But, you were talking about Barack Obama, and in the book, Hillbilly Elegy, that Walt and I have talked about, one of the things in this article is the author, J.D. Vance, he talks about this. He says, let's see. He writes that Obama feels like an alien to many people for reasons that have nothing to do with his skin color. The president is brilliant, wealthy, and speaks like a constitutional law professor. He conducts himself with a confidence that comes from knowing that the modern American meritocracy was built for him. If people claim that Obama is a liar, a crypto-Muslim, an inarticulate, teleprompter-dependent affirmative action baby, that is partly because they know that in this new world, he is better than they are. And from the book, the writer quotes, he is a good father, while many of us aren't. He wears suits to his jobs, while we wear overalls. If we're lucky enough to have a job at all, his wife tells us that we shouldn't be feeding our children certain foods, and we hate her for it. Not because we think she's wrong, but because we know she's right. Okay?
Wow. That said it all right there, Jack, in a nutshell. That really said it all. And I've been saying to them, what are you so afraid of? What's this fear? I don't understand the fear, Jackie. They're such badasses that walk around with their guns, Well, aren't you already protected? What are you afraid of?
Brenda, think of it this way. If you have been raised to believe because of your skin color, you are superior to a guy like Barack Obama.
Yeah.
And then you see a guy like Barack Obama ascend to the presidency while your life is shit, right?
Yeah.
It makes you mad.
Yeah. Yeah, Jackie. That's what it
The
is.
other thing too is that, the thing that I appreciated about J.D. Vance's book is that, like, his view of all of this stuff was like unvarnished and, brutally sort of honest. You know how I always talk about how these people have no sense of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, J.D., he just puts it out there. And I mean, the thing about J.D. is that he is a Republican.
Yeah.
Okay? He is a conservative Republican.
Yeah, I like him too, Jackie.
Yeah, that is his political affiliation. But, he's one of those guys who doesn't shy away from what's real and what's true.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a few Republicans like that, and as David Capers has written in the chat room, food for thought, Daddy Bush is voting for Hillary. I knew it was true when it was said. It was Joe Kennedy's daughter, Kathleen, who interviewed him, and I knew this.
Kathleen is Joe Kennedy's.
No, Robert Kennedy.
Robert Kennedy's daughter. Thank you, Walt. Yeah, Robert Kennedy's daughter, Kathleen Kennedy. She interviewed Poppy Bush, and he told her that he was voting for Hillary, and boy, it hit the news.
Of course, that's going to hit the news.
Well, we're not denying it, but she shouldn't have let that get out. Well, you knew once you said it was going to get out.
Well, nobody's going to have a chance to vote for Jeb.
Yeah, and here's the thing. George Bush knows, but George Bush is an old school Republican. They used to work with the Democrats. They used to really get things done for the country. George Bush was a millionaire as well as Johnson. People don't know Lyndon Baines Johnson was a millionaire, but he was before he came to the White House. He wasn't just a school teacher. That's what he used to be. But George Bush knows that this man will destroy this country. And out of the mouth,
try real hard.
Yeah, out of Donald Trump's own mouth, he wrote a quote, or this may have been in one of his books, but it said, "I may be the first businessman to become president and make money off the United States," and that is his exact plan.
Yeah,
he's not rich enough for himself, and so he's found a way. We don't know what he will do, people. He owes China, the State Bank of China, $650 million. You're letting this man be president. You don't think he's going to be working on some kind of deal to get himself from under this $650 million? No, he don't like to pay nobody. We're not going to demand to see his taxes. How can you be a president? What I've noticed about Donald Trump is all of the things that he is, all of the not so good things that he is, you will hear him immediately start accusing the other person, his opponent.
This morning I heard something on NPR that was really funny. They were talking about the debate, and they were talking about how this is a dangerous time for Hillary because Trump, there's such low expectations of him. Well, just like when they propped, when Steve Schmidt and Nicole Wallace propped Sarah Palin up to debate Joe Biden, right?
Right.
And she didn't answer a single question, right? She didn't answer a single question. She kept sticking to her talking points and just saying this shit over and over again. And she said, I may not answer the questions the way you want me to answer them, but this is what I have to say, something like that.
Yeah, right.
It's like, are you kidding me, right?
Yeah.
So, anyhow, but the expectations for Sarah Palin were so low that she stood up on the stage and didn't fall over was a victory, right? Even though those of us who were watching, right, realized that she was just giving canned answers and I mean,
yeah, we realize she doesn't know what she's talking
it was not
about.
a conversation at all. And so, the guy was talking about how Democrats are just going crazy over this shit. But it's like I said before, the press treats Hillary Clinton like a serious candidate, and they treat Donald Trump like he is the sideshow.
Yeah.
So they need to start treating him like he's a serious candidate.
And a wacko serious candidate. And they're starting a little bit late here, Jackie, digging into all of his corruptions and starting to report it. Okay, Jackie, did you hear the last story on the report about him using charitable donations?
Oh yes.
To
when the first story that I heard about this, about his campaign, about his foundation making a contribution to the Attorney General's race in Florida, I was like, ooh, that's illegal. Why do I know that? Why do I know that? Because I ran a nonprofit for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that is like a major no-no.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, if I can know that, you cannot tell me
that he didn't know that.
Nobody in Trump's organization knew that.
Okay, Jackie,
I mean,
and because the organization is really a fraud, he doesn't have a board or anything. He wrote these checks from these foundations that people gave to his foundation. He wrote these checks to pay for his lawsuits and so on and so forth. And you don't hear him out here screaming about that, do you?
Oh, well, all they say is that, the article is wrong and the reporter is biased against Trump, but they never give any specifics of where.
But he has the copies of the checks. They put the copies of the checks online that he wrote them from the foundation. He signed them. And then they found the $10,000 portrait of himself down in Mar-a-Lago. And this reporter was looking for this thing all night. And then they heard that maybe it was at this bar and grill down in Mar-a-Lago, Florida. And somebody got somebody to let them in, and they tweeted, I found it. I found it. I found the $10,000 portrait.
Becomes after this, right? How is this all going to work out in the campaign? Because, like you said, they're treating Trump in one way.
Well,
and
I tell you, if Lester Holt,
and in the interim,
if Lester Holt
and somehow, because the cushion isn't what it was before, although she's still got a cushion, according to the polls, if you can believe the polls, right?
Right.
The question becomes what's going to happen next, right?
Well, Walt, if these commentators that are going to be hosting these debates, if they don't ask this man some tough questions and demand an answer, not some spin. You notice every time Donald Trump is asked a question, someone stood up and said at the Commander-in-Chief forum, Mr. Trump, I'm a college student, and I'm worried about all of the student debt that I'm going to be taking on. How are you going to fix that? That's a great question, because Hillary Clinton is and that's just, and then they're gone. Boop, he's gone off on the Hillary Clinton road, and so believe me, I'm going to take care of that. You didn't, and I'm sitting here. No, you're not telling us. You didn't tell her nothing. And that's their answer to everything. And Chris Matthews and Lawrence O'Donnell, I have to say, and Tamron Hall, they are really starting to get into these people's butt. You did not answer the question. Mika Brzezinski has really started to get into these people's butt. She pleaded with Bob Corker the other morning. Mr. Corker, Donald Trump said so on and so forth, and all of these offensive things he said about people. And are you comfortable with voting for him? And, I've talked about this, and he went round by Mary's house, over to Jane's, stopped off at John, went down to the lake, jumped into the lake with John, came back by Mary, stopped back at Jane's. And he never answered the question. He just, I'm proud that he is evolving. I'm proud that he is staying on topic. You know, Jackie, when you say that to me, I'm an intelligent woman. I just don't appreciate staying on topic. I'm proud he's sticking with the talking points. You just told us these are talking points. You've been taught that. And as long as he sticks with them, we're going to be okay. You don't answer the American people. And Jackie, I'm just amazed that they would go along with this. But again, did I lose you guys?
No, we're here.
But again, here we are. We know that some of these people understand he's not answering questions.
I think they live under the delusion that somehow they'll be able to control him.
Yeah, I think that too, Jackie.
Think for a moment about his personality. Okay, the man is a narcissist, right? Mm-hmm. He gets off on being the center of attention and being powerful.
Right.
Can you imagine a human being like that having the power of the presidency?
Yes. No.
Okay. That's the kind of power that, guys like that only dream about, right?
Yep.
Can you imagine what he would be like as president? He would conduct himself as dictator, as king.
Yeah.
What would happen the first time that the Congress did something that he didn't like? What would happen the first time that a court nullified an executive order?
I can tell you what he's going to be doing.
What happened?
I can tell you what he's going to be doing. He is going to hire him a team of private investigators and try to get any dirt on any cheating, anything that they're doing. And then he's going to try and blackmail them. That's the only thing somebody like that can do.
Can you imagine like the public temper tantrums that we would see? Can you imagine the bile and the vitriol that would be coming out of the White House?
Oh, yes, I can.
I mean, can you imagine what nations around the world would think of us?
Yes, I can.
This is bad. I mean, it's so bad. A lot of times I don't like to think too deeply about it because it makes me very depressed.
Yes, Jackie, because we are going to be, I wasn't depressed when George Bush won. I was very disappointed for about a week or two, and I got over it. But I'm telling you, I would be depressed. And I've never worried about who the president is going to be in this country until this man came along. And they really believe, as the fights break out at his rallies and they're spitting on people and they're calling us niggers. And you see, Jackie, I would ask the Secret Service to get them out of there. No, you take him out. The one that spit on the black girl, the one that called her nigger, you take him out. I don't want his support. That's not what he's doing.
No,
what he's doing is ratcheting it up. Get him out of here. Get him.
The John McCain thing. No, ma'am. No, he's not.
Yep. And that's what
the problem is, that the social climate is so bad, right? That between all the problems with the police, the shootings, and then the Donald Trump rallies and all this kind of stuff, this is a pretty big mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to read another little thing to you guys, too, from this article about the Red State Blues, where Miss Hawkschild, is that her name?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, who wrote the book, sorry, I keep scrolling up and down. Her book is entitled, what's her book? Strangers in Their Own Land, Anger and Mourning on the American Right, okay? What she wrote about Trump rallies is this. She writes that Trump's rallies are basically festivals of self-assertion for people who feel like embattled strangers, okay? And I think that's it. Look at me. I'm here, damn it. I'm not white trash. I'm not small-minded.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are just off the rails. I can't. It's hard for me to find a job. And for a lot of these people, well, Brenda, if you think about the part of the world that we are from, right?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of work is there that's available in the area where you live? Not much, huh?
Right.
Right. And so, you can either, find a way to adapt or make your own job, or you'll need to go to a place where there's more employment. But then when you go to a place where there's more employment, and the type of employment that's available is something that you are totally unqualified for because you dropped out of high school or because you don't have any training in this, that, or the other thing, and you need some training before you can do this job or that job, or just like you like to say, you have no teeth in your head, and you don't.
And Jackie, a lot of this stuff is not the president's fault or your senator of your mayors. Some of the places in life we put ourselves. Some of us refuse to go to school. Some of us refuse to be how do you say professional or dependable and get up and take yourself to whatever
just
job.
Like one of the things in J.D. Vance's book, Hillbilly Elegy, at the end of that book, he gives a list of, I think, like 10 or 14 things that he did not know before he went to Yale. Okay? Things that he did not know, like coming out of the Marine Corps. One of the first ones was he didn't know that you were supposed to wear a suit to a job interview. He did not know that there was more than one type of white wine.
Yeah, he did not know which fork or
right.
to
know
eat.
which fork or, that's right. He didn't know which fork or spoon to use.
Right.
He didn't know the importance of networking in your professional life.
Yeah.
There were all of these things that he did not know. Now, he was a Yale Law School student, right?
Mm-hmm.
But these are things that he did not know. Now, these are things that we knew before we left home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But these are things that he didn't know. And he was amazed at this new world that he had stepped into. And he writes that even today, he has issues.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
And the thing is that, and he's where he is now. He works for a venture capitalist firm in San Francisco. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that is a long ways from Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah. Jackie, if the rest of these folks understood what he understood, but see, we know that ignorance can hold us back a whole lot.
So,
and everybody.
What President Obama recently was talking about Trump, and he said that he was concerned about this idea that ignorance was a virtue. Ignorance is not a virtue, people. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just extraordinary. I mean, it's through their ignorance that they make shit up because they don't know and they're not interested in finding out, or maybe they feel it's too much trouble to find out. Even though with Google now you can learn anything.
Well, there's that other, that I don't want to interrupt you, but there's that other element that sort of comes out there, but he does. I don't think he really talks about it in an explicit manner, which is this sort of phenomenon of resentment, right? I mean, I know a guy here who wrote a book about that in French, right? That there's this kind of, and there's a psychological type of, it's not a personal thing; it's a societal thing, and it doesn't, and it's really complex. It doesn't just have to do with, looking at people who are more who are richer than you are, or whatever else is the case. It's the fact that, and I think Vance talks about this too, that when he's talking about his Yale law professors and stuff, the fact that some of the people who are in those positions of power really look down on the other people, no matter what they do, even if they are educated, right?
Yeah.
Even if they've done all the proper things, because they're not part of the, in quotation marks, elite, right?
Right. Well, but that's the thing about it. You gotta get in the network, and Vance talks in his book about realizing that you don't get a job by, if you're a Yale Law School student, you do not get a job by looking in the paper for people who are hiring lawyers and fill out your application and stuff. No. You get it through the receptions and the copies and all of those other things that they hold and that they have where they get to know one another. I mean, when he talked about, and I had listened to, a lot of people talk about this, and I have been in this situation myself before, where, you are invited to some kind of social function so they can see how you navigate social situations. And they're looking at whether or not you use the right fork and whether or not you know anything about wine and whether or not, they are looking to see if you will fit in. Okay? And so, yeah, it's really tough. And if you are, if you're a kid like I was, whose mom set the table every night and would whack you with a serving spoon if you picked up the wrong fork, hey, that shit is easy for you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way you were brought up. You know that you don't put your elbows on the table and you put your napkin in your lap.
That's right.
But, if you're a kid whose mom didn't cook dinner every night because she was too high, and if you were raised on like fast food and, eating in front of the TV, well, not so much.
No, and the other thing I think that he brought out, which is something that a friend of mine brought out to me many years ago, because he actually went to Yale, but not in law and mathematics, is that not everybody gets a chance to get in there. There's the old American mythology about, if you're good, you're going to get into these schools, you're going to get into the Ivy League or whatever. But what Vance pointed out in the law school, and my friend also I found out with him, and this happened to be in the sciences and mathematics, is that half of those places in those schools are, reserved for people who come from feeder schools. You have no chance. I mean, you think you're, they have, let's say, 30 places which are open, and you've got one of 30 chances. But the fact is, 15 of those are already farmed out to somebody else, right? And you're competing for 15, not 30, let's say, right?
Yeah, and
that makes life even harder because there are other roadblocks in the way, and so you may end up going to. God knows, like, Joe Biden, you may end up going to Syracuse Law School or whatever, right?
Okay, and let me say this. If you are uneducated and if you are toothless trash, then find yourself a toothless trash job and hold on to it. You're not going to get a boardroom job. If you did,
it's unlikely you're going to get a boardroom job.
Yeah, you're not going to get it.
We all used to laugh about this. People doing the bachelor's degree in commerce, talking, they think they're become
if you can find a job where folks need rocks, then get yourself in a position to get those rocks and get them to those folks that need them. But you're not going to get a boardroom job because you did not see fit to get an education. And all of this is not to blame on the president, but the president has tried to get the Republicans to go along with helping to get people such as yourselves, low information voters, poverty-stricken people. He tried to make a plan to get a bill passed for construction and stuff. We all can pick up bricks and shit. And
no, but there's something to be said about that too,
and he tried to do that.
Here a lot.
He flew around the country with the bill in his hand, begging to pass this bill for infrastructure building. Now here they are in this election 8 years later talking about infrastructure. And he tried that. Y'all wouldn't pass the bill. You wouldn't give the money to rebuild our roads and our bridges and put people back to work. And see, these are the people that the president was talking about. These people that have been left behind because they have no education, but he was trying to give them a skill. Let's get them into a skilled, a VOTEC school, and let's give them, let's get them a skill. The coal miners, where that's going.
This all comes back to, and I know I'm saying this every week now, but it's
And we gonna keep on saying the truth around here.
Yeah, well, one of the things that is so true is that this model that the Republicans are working is the Confederate model. That's what it is, okay?
Mm-hmm.
They do not believe in public education. They don't believe that everyone should have a certain standard of education. I mean, one of the reasons that the Common Core program broke down is because after they had gone through all of this work in the Obama administration, said, look, we're not going to impose something on you. We want the educators from the 50 states to get together and come up with a Common Core standard so that we know that when a child graduates from high school, whether it be in Mississippi or Massachusetts, they will have a consistent skill set. There are certain skills that they must have in order to get a high school diploma anywhere. So that we don't have kids graduating from high school that can't read and can't do basic math and blah, blah, blah. Okay?
And look, and
that's what they came up with. But then, once, the right wing got a hold of it, then suddenly it was a federal takeover of education.
Yeah.
And they needed to do something different. They needed the children to be taught about what an exceptional country the United States is.
Yeah, and then that wife of his was trying to set a school lunch a meal criteria that would be better for our children to eat, and who is she to tell us how to eat? That it's just pure hatred and anger. What is wrong with that? I mean, I don't understand. Now, my friend, my Trumpian friend in the great state of South Carolina is writing me again on Facebook. And he wrote, I'm sure you're listening, my darling. He wrote, we have all been slaves at one time or another. What I am saying is that we have to get past it and survive as a nation. No shit. I wrote back that this is the most sensible thing I've heard you say. Now tell your candidate to speak like that. And respectfully, if I may say, Black people have gotten past slavery. It's the white folks that keep reminding us of it. We understand.
I think we're getting, we got 20 minutes left or something. We're getting towards 3 o'clock, right?
Yes.
We got no berry. But can I say something? You asked me to look into something last week. I just want to point out what happened to your friend Governor Bentley.
I'm going to let you get to it as soon as I finish making this point. As Jackie was talking about what the president was trying to set a strict curriculum for us to make sure that at least the kids could read. These were going to be the standards. As Jackie said, they accused him of trying to take over. He's going to tell our kids how to read. Now, here's one thing I understand, y'all. Part of this, a big part of this, is that we've got people raising kids now that, if your parents are crazy or depressed or on drugs or alcoholics or wife beaters, the government can't be responsible for every bloody thing of how you turn out or as to why you don't have a job. And we've got drug addicts and drunks and wife beaters and husband beaters and some folk that just never should have had children, raising children or children living in the homes, in Black and white homes, people of all colors, nationalities. Some folks just ought to not never had children. Now, I would like to pick out a few of these people and say, okay, you can't have children. But then,
Brenda.
you and your bloodline, we got to stop you right here. But that's just my silly belief. Some people ought not have children, but we can't do that, can we? Or we wouldn't have the hillbilly telling his story. Because we never know.
Well, it is not only that, you can't really gauge, human potential. And you can't gauge, like, for instance, I remember telling somebody a long time ago that if you're going to be black, you can't be a pussy, right?
If you can't be black, you can't be a pussy. Jack, I've never heard that one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's a good one, though.
But,
hey, look, if Trump can say it at his rallies, I guess we cuss on this show. Surely we can say it here.
Yeah, but, it's like being black is no small thing.
Nope.
And so if you're a pussy and you're black, you're not going to make it.
And let me say this, too.
And one of the things that I think is that, the challenges that black folks have faced, it either beats you down or it makes you stronger. One of the two.
Jack, would you agree with me that black folks have always went along, got along, stayed in the flow? And let me say this. White folks, just like you have no right to say the word nigger, you have no right to tell us when or how to get over slavery. It is a thing that when we listen, we will never forget, nor should we. Because see, if we forget, we are subject to be slaves again. But don't accuse us of not getting over slavery. I was not a slave. It was my great-grandfather who was a slave. I was not the slave. And I went on to see past all of that. But my grandmother, my great-great-great-grandfather was a white man. Had it not been for him, maybe we would not be here. Okay? So, his seed was passed down. I have never, ever hated white people. The best man I ever knew and married was a white man. But I promise you, he would have been working on the Underground Railroad if he were back there in the slavery days. But white folks.
May I ask a question?
What?
Is that accent that you're putting on, is that in honor of our French ancestors?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. I just wondered.
I was wondering.
Or our Kenyan ancestors. It just came over me, Jack. And I didn't want to say motherfucker or nothing, so I went into another my.
So I said it anyway. Yeah.
My Kenyan shit came out to try to smile about it, but
okay.
We have always been here to survive with this nation. We've always tried. We just didn't want to be whipped and chased by dogs and had our women raped and shit. And now who accuses us of wanting to rape their women? White folks.
Yeah, well, but the thing about it is Michelle Obama put it so eloquently in one of her speeches. In the speech that she gave at the Democratic National Committee, I mean, it was just lovely, and she talked about that. But it's like you cannot be a black person in this country and not have any backbone or any spine. You have to,
yeah,
you gotta have it. And
you gotta have it. You gotta speak up when you gotta speak up. And
absolutely.
We should speak up.
So
it is not your sons and daughters who are being shot in the street by the police officers. While Donald Trump is telling us how terrible our neighborhood is and how we can't walk down the street and I don't know anything about that neighborhood where I live.
Understand how incredibly offensive
that is.
Remarks are.
And y'all stand and cheer. Yeah, you don't know shit about walking down our streets. I've never had.
And not only that, my husband, he was like, who the hell is he talking about? My husband is not a politico.
Let a black man bring a R16 to Walmart.
Yeah. My husband is not a politico. He is a citizen, though. There are some things that I really admire about him. Like when he goes to the polls to vote, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He is well informed on all of the issues.
Jackie, we have a guest in the chat room who really wants to call in. He can't call in because I can't conference him. But I would ask that you call him. He is begging to make a point. He came to my house and asked to to be able to be on the show today to make a point. Would you please
And who
call?
is this?
Would you please call your brother Kenneth Morganfield and conference him in Barry's place and let him have a word or two. He says he's done his homework. And Walt, we are going to let you give us your home assignment before we get off the air, okay?
Okay, we don't have too much time, right?
That's right.
Well, we go over
right,
15
right
minutes
now,
or something every week, so we're asking Jackie to call, and if you have to hang up, Walt, we'll allow that.
Okay.
No, well,
Okay.
Hold on.
So,
Okay, so I'm going. You guys just keep doing what you're doing. Okay?
Yeah. So while Jackie is getting Kenneth on the line, we are going to take a short break, and I'm gonna let Nina Simone sing a little bit about revolution for you for the next 4 minutes, and we'll be right back. You are listening to Let's Talk About It right here at the #1 broadcasting network on the net, and that's Spreaker.com, baby. Brenda, Jackie, Walt, and her brother Ken will be back in a short, okay? Stick and stay.
Okay, we will do. Oh shoot. Maybe we'll do them both. I don't know. Hey, we're in the middle of a revolution because I see the face of things to come. Yes, I do. Oh, your Constitution. Well, my friend, it's gonna have to bend. I'm here to tell you about the destruction of all the evil. It will have to end. It's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right. It's gonna be all right. Well, some folks are gonna get the notion. I know they'll say I'm preaching hate. Hey, but if I have to swim the ocean, well, I will, just to communicate. It's not as simple as talking job, the daily struggle just to stay alive. But it's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right. I'm talking about a revolution because I'm talking about a change. It's more than just air pollution. Well, you know, we all got to clean our brains. The only way that we can stand, in fact, is when they get their foot off our back. It's gonna be all right. Everything's gonna be all right. What to do? What to do now? I'm telling you. I'm gonna tell you now. Soon you'll know. Soon you'll
Lamone singing Revolution. But hey, don't have the FBI coming to see me. I'm not going to be getting no guns, carrying it. But I will walk. I'll walk. I'll help protest. You know, I grew up getting chased by dogs and shit and protesting. I will protest. So, all right. So, Jackie, who we got on the line?
So, I would like to introduce to everyone a world-class agitator and my baby brother, Kenneth Morganfield.
Oh, yes, Ken. The crowd is clapping and welcoming you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so Ken
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now, as y'all know, if Barry wasn't here, then we ain't missing nothing because Ken is a world-class agitator, just like Barry. He ain't got Facebook time out yet like Barry, but he can still bring some heat and some smoke up in here. But he wanted to hear, we've got a couple of things we're going to talk about before we say goodbye. So we look like we're going 15 minutes over. But Walt had an assignment, and Ken got in the chat room, and I was kind of tickled to see him, and I didn't read his quote completely. I mean, his statement completely. What he was wanting to hear was the assignment that I gave to Walt last week. And Walt has been itching since 20 minutes till 3 to give us the results of his assignment. Walt, what was your assignment?
Well, you asked me to take a look at what happened to the governor of Alabama, Mr. Mark Bentley, right?
Oh, yeah, you liked it. You sure liked it.
And I know you like him because, you know, I remember your description of his, I think what they call in the news media, physical affair. Right?
Oh, yeah, his phone sex tape. I like it. I like it. You know I like it.
And if I remember correctly, you did a very vivid description of that yourself, right?
Yes.
In one of those moments, and maybe we could recreate that, but I think...
that you and Jackie would rather crawl up under the rug than to hear me talk about. But you know what I liked last night?
Well, let me tell you, because I know you want to get the cat. Let me tell you that things move slowly in the state of Alabama. But after some digging, I did find out that, you know, that the impeachment... resolution was filed in the state legislature in Alabama on April 5th.
Oh, was it?
Okay. And so April 5th they filed it, and then everybody got their lawyers together, and the council that's going to be was engaged by the committee in the Alabama Assembly was Mr. Jackson Shannon, who was one of the people in the Whitewater project. I know you love that. One of the councils to a Whitewater investigation.
Uh-huh.
And the governor of Alabama himself went and got himself a Yankee lawyer, right? One of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got a guy from Connecticut named Mr. Ross.
Us who believe...
Mark Sanford, another one of your...
us who believe in freaking. They don't come to us until they get caught freaking, and then they need a Yankee. Go ahead, Walt.
And then what happened was on August 31st, which was a while ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
The motion to suspend impeachment was denied by the House committee. Okay, so they're going to try to impeach him, but no further date has been set for anything.
Okay,
we're in the middle of nothing.
Well,
so we're going to try maybe eventually.
Well, Walt, thank you for that update. You know, I like my little old freak down there in the great state of Alabama, and you know I like freaks, and so I thank you for giving us an update on him. Now, Jackie, would you and could you please call the names of the latest 2 black men killed by police, and we'll let Ken have a little say about this. Join us on this conversation before we go today.
Okay. Well, Kenneth, do you know? Because I don't know off the top of my head. I'm not ashamed to say.
The latest,
the latest
dude in North Carolina, his last name was Scott.
Okay.
And then
the man in Tulsa was, I think it was Courtney. I'm not sure about him because they've been killing us so fast. And I say us right? because I'm 6'4", 260 pounds, and I'm dark as night. Darkness is my friend. They've been killing us so fast, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah. By the time we get one name.
In Tulsa was was Terrence Crutcher.
Yes, Terrence Crutcher.
Crutcher.
Yeah, I just called his last name. And so North Carolina is on fire right now because the chief of police is lying.
Well, wait, Brenda, wait. Okay. Before you say that, I just want to say that this day, the mayor and the police chief had a press conference today. All right? And one of the things that the police chief said is that he has reviewed the video and the man did not point a gun at anybody.
We know this.
Okay? So that is one thing that he said. He did at least,
Jackie, we knew that before they held any press conference. I told you the other night they're playing with words. I can say we did recover a gun from the scene. No, something's wrong with the way he just said that. I called Jackie immediately and said, "Do you hear the word game going on? Something's wrong with what he just said." You just saying. Okay, Ken.
Let me jump in here because we're always focused on the individual crime. But have you noticed that there is a pattern? What happens is a black man will get shot. There'll be social media outrage. You'll see the video, and this stuff started back with Rodney King. Okay, then what will happen is that the officials will make a statement. The officer that did the shooting, more times than not, will be put on administrative leave with pay. The next news story will come out, and people's attention will be diverted, and then that officer will quietly be put back on duty. Okay, how many police officers have we seen the video? They have been wrong. There's no way that in a court of law that a black man could have even come close to doing any of the things that these officers have done and not go to jail.
Yeah, Ken. Again, I always praise Nikki Haley in South Carolina because the 3 shootings that she had, they arrested those policemen on the spot. Or within a day, they arrested them and put them on trial and gave them time. Let me just say that for Nikki Haley in the great state of South Carolina. Because they had some bullshit shootings,
That's Nikki Haley in South Carolina. How many times have officials apologized? How many times have our government come out and said, you know what they did was wrong? I'm talking to local officials. I'm not talking about the Obama administration because we know that Obama has been real quick to come out and say to apologize and say we need to take community action and say we need to get rid of the things that Donald Trump is advocating, stop and frisk again, even though we know stop and frisk is unconstitutional. But when we look at the big picture, the big picture is changed. The same thing is happening in the United States as was happening to the Jews in Germany in World War II.
When I saw this, Ken was with me the other night. Ken was with me the other night when we saw this. And I said, Ken, that could be you. That could be Dennis. That could be any of my nephews, my brothers. This terrifies me. And I know it terrifies black men and women everywhere. And they're just not killing some men. They're killing more of our men. But like Sandra Bland, Negroes don't hang themselves with garbage cans. She wasn't facing no life penalty. She wasn't going to be in jail another week before they killed her. And she hung herself with a garbage can.
But we're looking at the specific cases, case by case. If you put it together as a whole, from coast to coast, from Los Angeles to New York, from Florida to Washington State, black people are being exterminated under the guise of the Second Amendment, under the guise of black people are bad, because have you noticed the language? The young man that killed the 9 people in Charlotte, he was mentally unstable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
A black man that does anything, he's a thug. He's a gangbanger. As the helicopter dude was flying around in Tulsa, he said, "That's a bad dude." The man was walking with his hands up.
Yeah. And on the way home from a college course.
The language that is used between Caucasian criminals and African American criminals is
thug and
totally
kid. Well, grown white men who do terrible things are kids, just like the 32-year-old Rio swimmer.
I'm talking about Ryan Lochte.
Yeah, he was a
crazy.
kid.
When I first heard that, well, there were just a bunch of kids. I was like, Ryan Lochte, 32 fucking years old.
Yeah,
wait a minute. Wait a minute. The Stanford swimmer.
Yeah, that's a kid.
That raped the woman.
Yeah.
They got 6 months in jail.
And did 3. Got 6, did 3.
And he only did 3.
And they said, and his lawyer said, Your Honor, we're going to ruin this kid's life.
Old man. Bill Cosby is an 80-year-old man, right? The women that he allegedly perpetrated the crime on, they were grown.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they knew what they were going up there for in the first place.
Oh, stop, Kenneth. I'm sorry. You got to stop.
I'm not going to stop.
Nobody knew they were going to be drugged and raped.
The thing, my comparison is this. How can a Caucasian man rape children, rape college students, and get 3 months in jail? Bill Cosby.
Where did rape children come from, Kenny?
Rape children?
Because they do rape children.
You consider a college student.
And Bill Cosby was a rapist too, so he gets no pass at this show, Ken. You can't.
I'm not worried about Cosby getting a pass. If Cosby is guilty, then Cosby needs to go to jail.
He is guilty of drugging them and raping them. He said so.
But check this out. How much time will Cosby get compared to the white boy?
Well,
we just don't go there.
Well, no. I see your point. We just didn't want you to add in that he wasn't. That he didn't do nothing wrong.
If you do the same crime in America and your skin color is different, your sentence is different.
Well, we understand that point, but when you added in that they knew what they were going for, that's what me and Jackie had a problem.
And then when you're looking at the execution without trial of black people in the streets by those who are sworn to protect and serve. I'm sorry.
Oh, we agree with you there.
I understand.
No need to apologize.
Upset about Cosby.
No. I wasn't upset.
I got a different view on Cosby.
No. Listen, we agree with you. But when you said they knew what they were going to look, I'm a grown woman, and if I go to some man's house to get to know him, to have an evening with him, or to have dinner with him, just trying to get to know him, I don't expect to be drugged. And he already admitted. Okay. He already admitted in court documents that
the court transcripts on that I have seen. Bill Cosby actually told them, "Well, I got this to help you relax."
No, the court document said, "Did you get the drug Quaalude to drug these women?" Yes. That was the court document. So we ain't gonna debate. We're not gonna debate that here.
That was for them to relax.
That's my point. You're drugging somebody with a drug they don't know they're being drugged with. They could die. So we're not gonna defend Bill Cosby here at this show. We've already roasted his ass.
Defending Bill Cosby.
Well, I ain't gonna argue with you about it. Let me go back to this thing about
if you can't get no coochie without no drugs. And all that money you got, bro, you sorry.
There you go. Thank you, Ken. Now listen, y'all. On my page, I have this page.
Look,
I'm talking. The host is
talking to my auntie Brenda. You already know.
I do.
We gonna go there.
I do.
I'm not backing up.
I don't want you to back up. We laughed. We like it. We like it.
On the radio, huh?
Yeah, and I'm the host, God dog, because that's the one thing you got to remember. But we're talking about white folks and the Second Amendment and the guns, and I believe that and I believe that this Second Amendment and us wanting guns and the open carry state, it's not for you, black folks. Don't believe that you can carry a gun and hold on, Ken, and you can walk away and everything's okay. I got this thing on my page, and it has this looking like a true skinhead with the beard and the shaved head and the dark sunglasses and the big M16 or AK, whatever you want to call it, on his shoulder, and it says, "People need to start respecting the flag of the government I am stockpiling arms against." That part. I love that, because this is what they're doing. This is what they're doing. They're hoping that the day is going to come when the South will rise again and they will be able to fight and really turn over this government. That's what they're hoping for. But they got Trump now, and so they hear the racist shit, but they like it. They hear what he's saying. They like it.
You guys do know that a bunch of racists held a news conference in Washington, D.C.
Yes, I posted that on my Facebook.
I didn't know about it. Tell us about it, Jackie.
And how, excuse me?
I didn't know about it. Tell us about it.
Oh, well, this was probably a week or so ago that they held this news conference, this whole cloak and dagger clandestine sort of thing, right, to explain to the media about the alt-right movement, which is just the other way of saying the neo-Nazi movement in the United States.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that they talked about is how helpful Trump has been in their recruiting, and that so many people are now interested in their movement because Trump retweets their racist tweets and he says the things that they think,
Mm-hmm.
And so there you go. I don't think you need to go any further than that.
Yeah.
See how racism is an integral part of Trump's campaign.
Yeah, Jackie. Go ahead.
My thing about the Trump campaign is not Trump. My thing about the campaign period is the electorate.
Oh my God! I'm like Bill Maher.
How is it that 43% or 44% or whatever the new polls are today are willing to vote for this man?
That's what's frightening.
Who is a bigot, a racist, who talks down about women, who has no knowledge of foreign policy.
Or
he got no knowledge of domestic policy,
Ken. The United States move forward. Right. Okay, and yet you have 43%, 44% of the electorate that is willing to vote for him. I'm sorry, it's not Donald Trump, it's the people.
Yeah, and Ken, what he has done is opened our eyes to, wow, we didn't know it was that many.
Yeah,
that was still,
Said that, Bill Maher said that on his show this past Friday because he had Donald Trump's campaign manager Kellyanne Conway.
Oh Lord, that was so embarrassing.
And boy, was that a conversation.
Oh, it was, Jackie.
One of the things that Bill Maher said was that he's not worried about Trump winning the election because Trump is good or qualified. He is concerned because voters are stupid.
Right. He did say that, and that was funny.
Back. You sound just like Hillary Clinton, when she made that basket of deplorable comments, which I thought was hilarious, right? Of course, I thought it was hilarious. A basket of deplorables reminds me of one of Brenda's favorite phrases, a bag full of motherfuckers.
Okay. And let me say this, the 44% of you are a basket of deplorables because you're running around propping this man up, but it ain't what Donald Trump so believes, it's what you believe. I keep
asking myself, what do they think is going to happen? This is what gets me, what do you think? What do you believe? And whatever you ask them, now we're going back to what we were talking about in the top of the show now. is that whenever you ask them why they support Trump, you get some of the stupidest answers you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah. And I'm just not that damn dumb. If I were a hoe, and if I could stand to be with an ignorant motherfucker, I want all the Trump men. Because y'all would make me a millionaire. Y'all are so stupid that it just, you ain't got to say, I could get them and just say, Trump, isn't he great? And they would, yeah, give me some money. Yeah. If I was a hoe, you would be my number one target. Because you, and there's no need to say you ought to be ashamed of yourself. We already know they are not ashamed of themselves. He's going to make America great again. My friend just wrote, he's going to give equal opportunity to all, which is what America has promised us. Nigga, are you crazy?
The problem with that statement is this: America only sees WASP as all white, Anglo-Saxon, and Protestant. If you are not a WASP, you are not an American.
I think part of the problem is that we're too old, man. I thought we lived through Nixon and then Reagan, and I didn't think it could get any worse. But
you mean either? Walt, Walt, that's a really good point. I can't believe we're here. I really can't believe we're here in 2016 with this.
Well, David, just make one more statement.
Please.
When Barack Obama was elected in 2008, we could not believe it, right?
Right.
Who among us really believed that a black guy was going to win the presidency?
That's why so many of us cried.
And not only did he win, but he was reelected.
Yeah.
There's going to be a backlash, guys. And as hard as they have fought Barack Obama for these 8 years, he still had a successful presidency.
That's right.
Right.
And Jackie, and here's my hope, Jackie.
A number of levels, right?
Yeah.
So, we gotta, what I'm praying for is that these are the last throes, of the racist majority.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think we're going to see a Jewish president in any foreseeable future.
No, Walt, that'll be the day. Look, Walt, they were pumping Bernie up, but
no, I thought we were talking about Bloomberg.
Oh, I thought Bernie was a Jew.
I don't know why you're bringing me back, Bernie, because I don't particularly even like Bernie.
I know, but my point is, Bernie, they were pumping Bernie up for.
I want to say this one thing. I told people, and you can ask my friends, that we would see a black president before we would see an Italian or a Jewish president.
Oh, yeah.
Because nobody down south is, if somebody down south might vote for a black man, nobody down south is going to vote for somebody they saw in The Sopranos.
Yeah, and Barack, and look, what Jesse Jackson said, he said Barack Obama was the right color. Yeah, whatever. We loved him. He cared about people.
No.
He was.
Let me make my last statement, Auntie. Let me make my last statement.
Okay.
For everybody that's listening, the most important and the most powerful place in our electorate, in our government, is the Congress. Yeah. We are so focused on the figurehead, which is the President of the United States.
And all together.
Really want to make a difference in the election. Down
ballot.
Down
ballot. Ken, I say it every day. Before the show goes off, I remind them to vote and vote down ballot.
Down
if you
ballot.
get yourselves a Democratic
to work with the President of the United States, we will be stuck in a rut where we have been over all of these years, from trickle-down economics to yes, we can. We've been stuck.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Kitty, what I thought you were going to say, though, is the most powerful place was the voting booth. Because the thing about it is that we can complain, and it is sort of what you said, because, you got to go vote, and you got to vote down ballot. Okay?
Got to.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and that's it. And even though the Republicans have put plenty of structural impediments in the way of that happening, because, like even in a state like Michigan, where, Republican registration is somewhere in the 40s, or maybe now it's even in the high 30s, they control everything in the state. because when they won in their 2010 wave, they changed the rules. And I say this all the time. I am amazed that the court will not get into this. I'm just amazed. Because, we have got to have some relief from all of these gerrymandered districts and bullshit voting fraud laws and all of that other stuff. We've just got to have some relief from that. Because, the Republicans have put their thumb on the scale. They are a definite minority in this country.
And they know it.
They have their silent majority signs and all that other stuff. No, dog, there just ain't enough of you.
And that's the problem. And Jackie, they are very worried that they are not going to get back into the White House. And that's why, even though they are holding their noses, they will still elect this freaking insane man, Donald Trump. And there's no way you can't see he's not insane.
I'm putting my face in, the Barack Obama method to get elected. And, the early voting has started, and that they are dragging folks to the polls. The Clinton people are now.
Yes, they are.
They have an even more sophisticated infrastructure, political infrastructure now than they did when Barack Obama ran in 2012 and 2008.
I was thinking that, if you put up a new picture on Facebook, you will have 300 likes on that picture. And if you put up something about voting, you might get 10. But I understand that people are worried. People that have jobs are worried about, some backlash from that. So I guess I won't be so harsh on you. Just as long as you go vote. The hell with hitting my post, the like, or saying you will go vote. Go to the polls and vote for Hillary Clinton, and then vote down ballot for the Democrats, or you're not going to see any change. We already see what the Republicans think, and they stand before us every day and just lie. Will you? Are you pleased with Donald Trump? I'm not here to talk about Donald Trump. Yeah. Well, I'm pleased with Hillary Clinton. She's been working for people and low-income people and fighting for the rights of black folks and white folks who can't fight for themselves for 30, 40 years. I'm proud to vote for her. All this bullshit about she's a witch and all that shit, I don't care about that shit. And you shouldn't care either. Look at the facts. And the reason I tell y'all all the time, the reason Hillary Clinton has never sat a day in jail for all the shit that white folk done said about her, is because she's not guilty. You know how I know she ain't guilty? Because white folk can't put her in jail. If white folk can't put you in jail, you ain't going to jail. Okay? So vote for Hillary Clinton.
And then there's 650 million reasons not to vote for Donald Trump.
Thank you. 650 reasons not to vote for Donald Trump. The elections
$650 million in debt to foreign countries.
There you go.
Most of his dealings are
honey, that is just to the state bank of. That's just to the state bank of China, Ken, that he owes $650 million.
That's just to China, Ken.
That's just to China, baby. He owes a hell of a lot more.
I was trying to be nice.
Whatever.
Yes, I was trying to be diplomatic with that.
Having said all that, we got 6 minutes to say goodbye. Walt, what have you learned? Ken, what his crazy duck phone. Jackie, what have you learned today?
Oh, Brenda. As I say all the time, I don't learn much from these conversations.
Well, are you any less scared today than you were last week?
No, I continue. It's like I say. In 2012, I was nervous until the election was called, right?
Uh-huh.
And then, I was thinking about all this build-up to the election, and on election night, President Obama beat. What is it? It was 15 minutes later than the election was called in 2008.
Uh-huh.
And, I remember watching MSNBC, right? And Rachel Maddow seemed so depressed because she was expecting to be up all night.
Yeah.
And she would get to go home early.
And we got to go to bed before midnight, right?
And of course, my favorite remembrance from that night is Carl Rose.
Jackie, you took the thought out of my mind. I was thinking in turd blossom.
Oh yeah, I mean, Carl,
looking like he had eaten a turd.
He was hilarious. Him and his whiteboard.
Yeah.
I'm calling and they're refreshing the page every minute. Oh boy, shut up.
Okay, because he had got $450 million from these suckers and kept half of it for himself and promising them the election and him and his polls. It was all bullshit to keep getting money from them.
Well, but Brenda, the thing about it is, you remember we were talking about this at the time, when you create your own reality, eventually, objective, observable reality is going to catch up to you.
Okay, Jack says it's going to click in eventually.
Yeah, eventually, your bubble's going to burst. And when you think about the Republicans and their autopsy and we got to do this, that, and the other, instead, what did they do? They doubled down on white voters only.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's just not going to cut it, dog.
Jack said they going to cut it, dog. Walt, what have you learned today?
I'm getting a headache from all this Donald Trump stuff.
Walt,
I think I'm going to have to go and take
Walt,
Walt, ibuprofen and get a good coffee after this.
Well, Walt, I'm going to run my 3 miles after this, as I did yesterday and the day before that. I find that going out there running 3 miles and seeing my body become a 21-year-old body again is helping me greatly through this stress, because I sleep with the TV on because I'm afraid I'll miss something, but yet I'm having nightmares and shit. I woke up in here whining, I need to quit. So my running my 3 miles every day is giving me great relief. And here's what I've learned, that Walt better be working on that room in Canada for me if this son of a bitch wins. That's all I got to say about that.
Well,
y'all,
you're not going by yourself, right?
Right. Look, Walt, if you ever wanted to do something for mankind, you and Barb must share your house with us.
Well, I could always try to buy the apartment building next door to my house.
Yeah. At least for 4 years, Walt, or until the Second Amendment people show up.
Well, if you come here, you got to do the cooking and stuff, you got.
Oh, I'm down with it, dog. I'm down with it. I always said, if a man will not work, neither shall he eat. So I will do my part.
There you go. That's all right.
I'll do my part to eat and not have to live here under the Trumpian thing. And also, what I've learned is Don King ain't shit. What in the hell? Trump is scraping the bottom of the barrel to get black support.
There's a bunch. Look, Brenda, there's a bunch of guns down there to scrape.
Oh my God, where did he come?
Jackie, I'm looking forward to this, because if I get you all here, then I won't have to do anything. Get somebody mow the lawn and get somebody to do the, and I can do an extra couple of shows on the speaker, Brenda.
Jackie,
I got your yard, Walt. I got your yard. You got the yard. It's not that big. It's not that big, so you don't, it'll be like
Walt,
45 minutes.
Walt, I'm sorry to impose on you, but another black person, David Caper, says he's bringing his tent.
Yeah, okay. We got room under the trees out there, I guess, right?
We will see us on Google.
Right.
Hey,
a lot of your friends in the United States have been saying much the same thing to you.
I have a friend who lives speaking of the lady in Eastern Ohio, I have a friend who lives there. And he called, when I talk to him, all he says is, I can't believe when I read in the local paper. He said, I actually get the local paper delivered, and we always open up in the morning looking at the letters to the editor. And he said, who are these people?
Hey, Jackie, we can all see ourselves on Google now. Niggas move to Canada. Because of Trump headline.
No.
I know it. Yeah, because
Brenda, look, I think that what Walt just said, that is probably the most often repeated question in the country these days. Who are these people?
Yeah, Jackie, that I had a video and I clicked on the video to watch. Excuse me, y'all, for burping it on air. I clicked on the video to watch it for about the third time. The video that's called Trump supporters are as dumb as you think. And when I got over there and started seeing that there were a lot more comments, on this post where it originated from, and I think it was Democrats for America or something like that on Facebook. But when I got over there and as I started to read the post, I didn't see one black face. It was all white people writing about how ignorant he was, how dumb he was. Are we really here? Can we be here? How can this be happening? And who are these people? Where did these people come from? That was the question asked all the time. And I mean, some of these white people should have been comedians. They made me laugh so hard last night that I actually had to take something for a headache after it's Occupy Democrats. That's where the video came from. And if you go over there and see that video, or read the comments underneath the video, I'm telling you, you cannot. I was just. It was refreshing to me to see all of these beautiful white folks who got it like we get it, And I wrote on one of the. I put on the blog. It is so refreshing to be over here sharing with like-minded people. It's amazing, but they get it, and they're saying what we're saying. His white supremacy groups, and he has not yet said, he disavowed David Duke. He said he didn't know who David Duke was. I don't know nothing about him. And then they got another video of him earlier years. He's a bad, bad guy. Yeah, that guy's bad. And now here in 2016, I don't know nothing about David Duke. I don't know what he does. He's not going to disavow shit. He is keeping their support.
He uses every vote he can get.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, the whole thing is, if we're wrapping up to say just the social climate's really bad. I mean, you see these, it's been a long time. You see these police out there with all this military equipment and all this kind of stuff. You have to wonder where you're living.
Yeah, and they're blaming they're blaming the social climate on Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. You never saw so much love the night Barack Obama was elected. There had to be 1 million people in the streets of Chicago. Black, white, Jews, Hispanics, Mexican, Indian, Muslim, all of them locked in arms and hands and hugging one another and tears flowing down their front. You're not going to convince us that Barack Obama brought all this hatred and disdain to America. Bullshit. But
and
that's
whenever I hear that comment, it just freaks me out because they are absolving all the hateful Republicans and their rhetoric. They're absolving them of any responsibility in the climate in this country. And what I say all the time is that the thing about the Republican Party is they always want to take charge, but they never want to take responsibility.
Nope, never gonna take responsibility.
And being in charge means being responsible.
And the more they yell that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton is weak, then they think they're there because they're so strong. Donald Trump has never been in a schoolyard fight, and knocking the hell out of everybody else is bullshit. But he does what bullies always do. They shoot their mouths off, and then as soon as somebody busts them in the eye with a right cross or a rock, fight's over. You have been listening to Let's Talk About It. I am the wild and wonderful Brenda White, coming to you live from the Jewel middle of the Delta, broadcasting live from the #1 broadcasting network on the net, and that's Spreaker.com. Remember, we want you to live, laugh, love, and make love as often as you possibly can. Keep the bullshits out of your lives and be kind to one another, and get yourselves ready to go to the polls and vote Democrat. Down ballot, baby. That's the only way you're going to see this progress in America continue. Okay? I'll see you tomorrow night for Nothing But the Blues with your girl, Brenda Pearl. And immediately, David Capers is not with us anymore on Friday night. Not until football season is over. You can catch him every Wednesday night, immediately following Up All Night with Brenda White for After Hours, as he did it to us in our ear hole again last night. But then join me again Saturday night from 11 until 2 a.m. and let's get soft and warm together. I want to give you an eargasm. And we'll see you right back here next Thursday at 12 noon Central, 1 Eastern, and let's talk about it some more, okay? All right, we love you. Say bye, peoples. Thanks for joining us, Ken, my nephew, our guest today. I love you, Ken Morganfield. Thank you. All right, y'all, we're out. Y'all take care. And, hey, demonstrate peacefully if you can, y'all. We want to see you come back to demonstrate again. And all this fighting, they'll just kill you. They'll just kill you. That's all they're waiting on. All right? Okay. I love y'all. Y'all take care.